Coming up on OTH, it's a bit of a quick episode with Chris and Raymond just going over the patch preview for the next patch and then discussing some LCS Week 6. We hope you enjoyed this episode of On the Hunt. Welcome everybody to episode 62 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host Chris, aka the absolute copycat, because if you've ever played a game with my boy Flippos, you'll know his signature sign off at the end of every game is the XOXO, and I stole that shit, dude. I'm gonna be straight up honest with you. I used it in a video I just made.
Damn, really? I'm so honored.
Oh, okay. This went really well then. This went better than expected.
I feel like it's such a good thing. I mean, I stole it from Pobelter making a tweet or a joke at Ole, like when he first joined Immortals, I think. So it's not like it's original, but it's pretty funny.
Well, you've never missed it. You've never missed a game, so
True.
I think I'll attribute it more to you than to Pobelter of all people.
Fair.
And joining us on this episode is our other co-host Raymond. How's it hanging, my brother?
It's hanging pretty good, you know. Just getting by, playing some ARAMs here and there, some more. Still trying to get through Tiny Tina's in my spare time. I don't know, man. Nothing crazy.
Ooh, you've been on that grind for a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a grind for a while. It's just like every couple weeks I pick it up for a few hours and then don't go back to it for a little bit.
Dude, I was thinking like I'm the kind of gamer where like I can't only play for like 30 minutes or something like that. Unless it's like a game where like the game length is like 10 or 30 minutes, let's say like Call of Duty or like a League game or something like that, then like I could play one game. But like I think like an RPG or something like that, like I couldn't play it for just 30 minutes. If I only had 30 minutes of game time, like then I just wouldn't open the game or something like that. I would have to play for like, at least 2 hours or 1 hour or something like that.
Yeah,
Just something I was thinking of today.
I agree. It's hard, you know. I think a lot of the time you like you like want to like sink your teeth into something with most games, and it's like hard to find one that you like that's not, you know, that's not like there's a lot of games that you will play like you can play for just a few minutes, and like that's the whole thing. Like for me, that's Tetris. You know, it's like, oh, I have like 5 minutes. I'm just gonna play Tetris.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you're right in that in between. It's like, well, I could play an ARAM, and like that's it, man. Otherwise, like I'm not gonna get invested in anything else.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to get into it is the problem. Trying
Yeah.
to immerse myself in the experience, and then like, what if something good happens? Then I don't want to stop. It's a whole ordeal, I think.
Yeah.
Let's talk some League of Legends, man. How have you been playing very much?
I've been playing some, but it's mostly just been ARAMs here or there. Like I was saying, it's nothing. Not too many normals. Still not playing ranked. I feel like I'm building up to it. You know, we're now in like month 7 of the season, so we're almost there to where I'm ready to
Oh
play like
man,
games
I kind of
3 and
forgot
4.
actually. I might have to like actually go do that really quick, dude. Like having to bang out 10 games. That sounds like a lot, actually.
I know. I feel like that's like we were saying about getting it like invested in it. Like that's definitely how I feel about ranked games. Is like, damn, I don't want to like just go in like raw, like it's the first game of the day. But like haven't played ranked in a while. I should just play a game. Like I'm not there yet. But I'm just playing ARAMs like randomly because I'm like maybe I'll feel warmed up, or I'll oil the gears to where I'm ready to just queue into ranked. Because like who gives a shit, dude? That's what I have to keep telling myself. I'm like, nobody
Yeah,
cares if I'm plat or not. Like I'm just unranked now. Like what the fuck does it matter?
yeah. Let's just go get a free skin, dude, and call it a day.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into this week's topics. Not too much on the table here. Let's go ahead and get started with the patch 12.15 preview, just dropped today or yesterday, by the LOL devs over on Le Twitter.
I didn't know
And
French.
I don't know where that came from. And so there's just a few champion buffs and nerfs on the table here, and then a few changes to a couple of items as well. Let's start with some of the buffs. It looks like we're getting buffs for Lilia, Singed, Rammus, Leona, Thresh, Kennen, Akali, Zed, Shen, and Lee Sin. Do any of those interest you?
Not too much, honestly. I feel like a lot of these are kind of weird champs to be buffing. Like not like weird like they don't deserve it, but it's just like none of these are like who I would have thought like, oh yeah, damn, they really needed to buff this guy or not, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think looking at what's slated here, I think two of them stand out to me right away. One would be Leona, whose mana cost on her Q is going down, and then also the CC duration. So I'm guessing the stun and the slow on her
Hmm.
ulti is going up by 0.25 seconds up to 1.75. So I don't really know how necessary that is or what the justification for that stun increase is, but that just sounds pretty cool and it rewards people if you hit it spot on without any other lead up or follow through. And then another change that I was kind of looking at is buffs to Kennen. And just any time that I see Kennen buffs, I'm like, oh god damn it, are we gonna see like another 6 months of Kennen now in the top lane and stuff like that? Especially so close to Worlds, like it might be that people start picking him up again, and then he's in like every other game.
Yeah, that is true actually. I feel like Kennen is one of those. Some people have even been picking him recently. Like I feel like I've seen it in some like LCK or LPL. Just that's one of those that top laners just love to go back to. I'm sure it feels like very good to play Kennen just because you have range in lane. You know, it feels like oh man, I can bully people, and then also like when you hit those fatty ultis, like it's always good if you can find a fatty ulti. You just can't always find a fatty ulti.
Yeah, I feel like there's certain champions that always come back at least once a year. It's like Kennen, Renekton, Azir Victor, Ezreal. Like they always make their way back into like the meta somehow every year.
Yeah, that's true. The fan favorites, as they say.
Yeah, but those are the two that stood out to me right away. Everything else is kind of meh, or just like really tiny adjustments to like mana cost or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's the one that I think might end up being like more than tiny is the Akali change too. I feel like this is something that they've kind of messed around with Akali like energy like on her W or her Q a lot. It seems like since her rework, and it seems like this is one of those that maybe this makes a big difference. Like 20 extra energy on her when she uses a shroud could be enough to get a whole nother Q in a rotation or like in lane, you know. So I could see this being, if not a meaningful buff, at least a placebo buff that people just like want to start picking Akali more often into like the Yones or Yasuos or Silas's or something that we've seen her picked into before. So now people might just be like, oh yeah, fuck it, just blind me Akali, bro. She got 20 more energy on her W.
Yeah, and I don't know how what kind of thresholds that crosses for like how many queues you can do and to in order to like clear a wave or something like that. But that
Yeah.
probably is a meaningful kind of buff there actually. If there's nothing else for buffs, then we can move on to champion nerfs. Up on the chopping block is Master Yi, Kiana, Sever, Gwen, Talia, and Callista. And apparently Talia's busted right now, so it kind of makes sense that she's here on the patch notes. Do any of these interest you so far?
Yeah, I feel like these ones are a lot of these nerfs, contrary to the buff ones where I don't really care about most of them. A lot of these are nerfs to champs that I think probably deserve it. A lot of the big meta mainstays now.
Okay.
Uh, I think the Talia changes are definitely a good ones. Like a good champion to hit, also good changes. I don't know if you watch a lot of these pro games or just like streams where Talia is picked like in jungle and mid like all the time. I think that it's kind of crazy how often she does have her E just up and like around in a fight. Like it lasts for so long, and it seems like most of the time it's like, oh, you throw your EQ or your EW and you miss, and then it just stays there, and then it fizzles, and you can throw another E like on your, you know, next Q rotation, which is always so kind of nice to target the cooldown on that. I think definitely that's a big power point with the new stun that's on it.
That makes sense.
But yeah, other than Talia, Nurse to Sivir, Nurse to Callista, Nurse to Gwen all seem like pretty solid things. I feel like the Gwen changes don't change when people will pick her in pro a lot of the time. She does like just a ton of damage to squishies now, it seems like, when you go like, full AP like Nashor's Riftmaker Rabadon's build. But they're changing it so her Q does less true damage on the sweet spot hits. So it just means more magic damage. It's better to buy MR against her. I feel like that's just easier for people to like sustain against her in lane rather than take a ton of damage when she goes for these QE trades.
Uh huh. Any last thoughts for these champion nerfs?
No, I think I'm pretty good with them. Mastering and Kiana seem like pub stomp nerfs, so like I don't know. I don't get pub stomped. That's not my deal.
For sure, I believe it. And then lastly, we just have a couple of item adjustments. So the QSS items, Mercurial Scimitar and Silvermere Dawn, are both getting buffs to their MR values. And then also their actives are getting buffed as well, where the move speed duration for Scimitar is going up by zero point 0.5 seconds. And then for Silvermere Dawn, the tenacity on it is going up from 40 to 50%, and the health on completion of the item is going to go up as well. I feel like just kind of tiny things. I don't even know if people like finishing these items,
Yeah.
honestly. So
I
we
don't.
take those, I guess.
Yeah, it really seems like people just don't buy these items in general. I guess this does make them a little more attractive as like completed items, especially like Scimitar, since since like the crit item rework, where everything gives you 20% crit. Like it doesn't really make sense that you'd go QSS and not finish it into an item. So giving just more value and a completed item that you might have to go out of your way for seems like a good idea here. But again, like I don't think it's game changing really, but it just is like a little nicer for when you do have to build an item like this.
Uh huh. And then lastly, for some nerfs, they're nerfing the First Strike rune and then also a Divine Sunderer for the amount that it heals. I feel like the healing part for Divine Sunderer is probably justified, but how about this First Strike nerf? Is that needed?
I think it might be just because of how prevalent it's become for a lot of people. I don't think it's insane in most cases, or at least it shouldn't be, but I think a lot of people have found that it just is, a decent enough amount of value to take in, scenarios like you'll see Azirs take it or people take it in top lane just in against tank matchups. And even if your champ isn't like that good at proccing it, like if you don't have a lot of front loaded burst or you can get outranged later on and just get it poked off, like people will still take it just because it feels nice in lane to get gold. So I think just tapping down damage here is nice because that's kind of the extra reason that you take it and not like because you want to do more damage out of like out of stealth or out of combat or whatever. So it's like a good nerf just if it's become too prevalent.
All right, and it's just 1%. So
Yeah, it's not a ton. Like it's not changing that much.
yeah. All right. So that's going to be it of the patch preview. We'll see if there's a little bit more coming through next week as well. Other than that, there's not too much going on with the League of Legends universe. I think one thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that the Golden Guardians trade we were talking about last week with Dignitas. Apparently, that was like the trade deadline that they did that on. It was like the very last day that you're allowed to trade in LCS before it's just like locked behind the scenes.
Oh, interesting.
And so
Okay.
yeah, and I had heard that on Jat's thoughts thing that yeah they did it on the last day possible.
I guess that makes sense if you're gonna. I mean, it makes sense that they have a trade deadline. I just didn't know about it, but it makes sense too that that would get pushed through at the end if they're kind of unsure about how it's gonna go.
Yeah. And then yeah, like there we were approaching the end of like summer split. There's only a couple weeks left, so totally makes sense that the deadline was around this time, and that if teams are wanting to make some changes, then they do so then.
Yeah, think about it from Dignitas's point of view too. It's like you really only have 3 weeks left until your season is totally over. So if you can make money off of what would have been getting rid of a guy for 3 weeks, like I'm sure that's worth it.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the latest week of LCS. With are we on week 6 or week 7? I actually don't even know.
This was week 6. There's only 2 weeks left, and there's only 8 weeks in the season this season because of the super weeks. So next week is week 7, and then 8 is the final week following.
Okay. Oh, actually, I think one more thing we need to talk about is the dates for the world's playoffs locations and like when they take place was also revealed. So I think that the world finals is going to be on November 9th in San Francisco.
Okay. Okay.
So save the date.
Yeah.
um, and book a vacation because we're going.
All right, dude. I'm ready. I mean,
Yeah,
not really
and
ready. It's not like I
and
have a flight or anything, but I'm down.
yeah, and even if we have to buy tickets off a scalper for like 600, dude, like we're going. All right, now let's jump into some LCS Week 6. um, I've been like trying to do different things with my voice since I've been like recording more, and
Hmm.
like sometimes I talk with like a deeper kind of voice when I'm trying to
Yeah,
be
to get
quiet,
all
but then sometimes
sultry.
yeah, and sometimes I talk with like this higher voice when I'm being dramatic and have too much energy. And there was a lot of 2-0s in this week and a lot of 0-2s coming through this week to make some of the standings a bit interesting, actually. So up top, we have a 2-0 from EG, putting them at 11-2. In second place was another 2-0 victory weekend for 100 Thieves, putting them at 10-3. Next up, we have Cloud9 and CLG, also both having a 2-0 weekend. That puts them tied with TL, all three of them at 8-5. And then from here on out, it's not that happy. So FlyQuest are next up in sixth place at 7-6. Pretty solidly there in like that top six area. And then next up, we have TSM and Golden Guardians at 4-9. And then lastly, we have Immortals at 3-10 and Dignitas at 2-11, suffering some O2 weekends this past week. So, who's the talk of the town for you this week? I'm thinking that we could probably start with Cloud9, probably finally making their way to the top of the standings after having that rough start. But after week 6, baby, they're here with their finalized roster.
Yeah, I'm done to talk about Cloud9. I think it was on Sunday after they won their second game against TL, and Jensen was on the desk afterwards, I think, and he was talking about how uh, you know, like they're now 8-5, tied with CLG. It's a little weird, right? TL's looking weird. They're tied with them too. So like, how do you feel about being 8-5? And he was like, well, if you think about it, right, I think that we were 0-3 coming out of week one with our sub roster. And now that we've gotten everybody back and played with this roster for the 5 weeks after, we're 8-2 basically, which is like about where EG has been, right? They're only two losses as well. I don't know if they were over the same time frame. Well, I guess they were because they were like 9-0, right, at one point. So
Yeah,
so you're basically the same as EG over the time period where you had your real roster, which is pretty nice for them. I think they had some like I wouldn't say their games were extra impressive this week, but they won them like they were like you're supposed to do in LCS, so like can't fault them.
yeah. I think let's talk about some of the big boys up top too. I don't think they had any. I don't recall them having any big important games. But 100 Thieves and EG both take a 2-0 to further secure their like kind of bye contention moving into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they both had like I don't know. This week seemed like it was pretty lopsided for the top teams, kind of. Like a lot of matchups that you would easily predict one way or another.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, both EG. I think that the closest one of those top two teams is like EG versus FlyQuest, and that was a kind of close game, but only because it felt like FlyQuest like couldn't do anything in the game. I thought they had like Alistair, and when they fell behind, it was just like you can't really look for something because you're too far behind, but you can't not look for something or else you're gonna lose the game. And at some point, it was like technically even in kills, not that far behind in gold, and then at some point they like had to take a fight and lost it in their own red side jungle, and then they just lost the game afterwards. So it was like kind of a weird game. But yeah, like that was I think that meant more for FlyQuest than it did for EG. It was like here's FlyQuest's chance to prove that they should be in the top six too, right? Like and like hey guys, we're really a top team as well. Put us at top three or whatever, and then they lose to EG kind of unceremoniously.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, EG has been the one to beat for this whole season, so it's not a surprise, like you said, that FlyQuest ended up losing to them. But um, they really need a break to catch, I guess, because they've been having a couple of rough weeks. I think.
Yeah, they definitely somebody needs to give FlyQuest a bit of a free win to get them back on track. I think it feels like they've been they've lost their mojo a little bit.
Yeah. And then other than that, I don't know if there's any other highlight teams other than TL just doing another 1-1. I guess they lost to Cloud9, but I think they've been on this 1-1 kind of train for a while now. Do you have any comments on them?
Not really. I don't know. I feel like this is another, yeah, like they won against TSM that they're supposed to win against. They lost against C9, who you're not mad at them for losing against, but it didn't look good in their loss to C9. It kind of like it looked like they were trying to hang on, and C9 was doing everything that they could. Like it was an interesting game. It was a kind of a fucking slugfest of a game, I thought, but it didn't really feel like Liquid had a plan to ever try to win that game, and it just ended up being like, yeah, C9 found the way, and they keeled over. But I don't know, like again, it's kind of like I don't know how much I can fault them really for that loss, but they they lost, so it feels bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of TSM, apparently their Sunday game was a banger with their support Chime finally getting to play Bard after all these years.
Yeah,
And
dude,
apparently that was a fun game to watch.
that was honestly, I feel like I'm looking at the rest of the results here and just like trying to follow the schedule. I'm like, what were the games? We're trying to figure out a team that was interesting. I didn't give a shit about, like there's no storylines about the teams, but this TSM Golden Guardian game was fun to watch. Uh, yeah, like you said, Chime finally picks Bard. It's like I thought I was like watching them pick it, and I'm like serious TSM doubters at this point because it's like, damn, they lost to TL yesterday. Like they're just not good. Who cares? We're gonna lose out the rest of the season and be fucking bad. And then Chime picks Bard, and I'm sitting there like, damn, dude, he's gonna pick like the champ he's named after, and like somehow this is just gonna go bad, and we're gonna feel sad. And then he popped the fuck off, dude. I don't know. It was awesome.
You like to see it. There we go.
I love me some Bard gameplay. You know that.
What's your favorite Bard skin? Do you want to say on three?
Oh, hold on. Let me think. Let me think to make sure. All right, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it on three.
Okay. All right. One,
One,
two,
two.
three. I don't know the name,
Bard,
but the
Bard.
one with the fuck, the one with the hot cocoa W.
Ooh, Cafe Cuties. That's also a good choice. Or no, not Cafe Cuties.
No,
That's
it's a winter one, I
yeah,
think.
the Snow Day Bard. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Also
I
good.
do have Bard, so that's a fine choice.
Yeah, I feel like Bard's like a good like it's almost classic Bard, but it's still a skin, and like that feels pretty
Yeah,
good. And the music note chimes, I dig those. But you're
yeah,
right.
but
The
the
hot cocoa
cocoa.
is a banger. I like Cafe Cuties though too. Like the teacups is like also pretty good
Yeah, and
in
you
that
can't
same
knock
vein.
Astro Bard either, but unfortunately, just
True.
they didn't make the cut.
True, true. There's just too many good ones, man. Too many good ones.
All right. Anything else about this past week of week 6 of LCS? Like you said, kind of a stomp, honestly, for the top end of the table, and then we're just watching Cloud9 slowly grind through all of the teams throughout the whole season.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know. CLG had a good week. They went 2-0. Uh
Very true.
Golden Guardians didn't look good. Well, they looked okay. The TSM game was like a banger game, and like it felt like Golden Guardians playing, just like going at each other. It was like a fisticuffs kind of thing. That's fun, but it wasn't like, damn, they look good. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. Not like too much really.
Mm-hmm. All right, then let's go ahead and take a preview at the next week's games of just 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. Let's take a look at the Saturday's games. Are there any matchups here that kind of excite you and kind of get you tingling?
Let's see. What do we got? I think the biggest game for me on Saturday has got to be CLG C9. That's like, you're still top of the table. This is the first time did I wonder if CLG played C9 at the beat in the first half with the full roster or the fake roster. It looks
I
like
want
it
to
was
say the
I
fake
think it was full.
roster.
No, I think it was full because they won a game against them. So they've already beaten CLG, but it
Oh,
was like
okay.
maybe they're like just on week 2 or something. 2 or 3. But they've already beaten CLG, but like this is still like I feel like CLG has kind of grown into themselves a little bit as the split's gone on for sure. Pal Fox just beat up on Bjergsen last week, so see if he can beat up on Jensen and be like the true, North American GOAT mid.
It's a weird timeline that we're in.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely the most evenly matched game of Saturday though for sure. Obviously discounting EG TSM, right? EG is like horror bad, just like TSM, so they'll be slugging it out.
Yeah. Actually, I'm looking at that middle game. What do you think about TL versus FlyQuest being a little bit up in the air of who could win?
That's true, actually. I guess I looked at that and thought, yeah, it's got to be TL who wins that game. It should be easy, but at the same time, they have looked not that good. And I mean, so has FlyQuest, but that just means you shouldn't really feel excited about either team going into it, I guess. Um, so yeah, that's a pretty important game. Definitely a big swing for the standings, right? Like if FlyQuest wins that, then suddenly they're part of the big clump in the middle too, and they've dragged TL onto their level kind of. Um, so that's interesting for sure. Just in terms of at least standings, once you look at it in the end there.
Yeah, and then shout out to whoever does the schedule for putting the absolute slobber knocker matchup of Immortals versus Dignitas at the end of the day. So if you don't want to watch it, you can just turn it off after game four.
Yeah, that's true. That's got to be a rough one, dude. Like, I don't know. Immortals hasn't looked so bad in the last couple weeks. I mean, they've gotten better, I think. A lot of teams have said it, I think. Even like people that, aren't on Immortals have said like, yeah, they look a lot better coming out of the week break that was kind of in the middle of the split, but they've still, gone like 2-4 or something from since then. So it's not crazy. But they're they kind of are playing like they don't think they should be the worst team in the league. So hopefully for them, that's not a slobber knocker, but it's a slobber knocker. Let's not kid ourselves.
All right. Let's go move on to the next day's games. And I think again, FlyQuest has another match against that middle clump of teams at currently at 8-6. So I think this is actually a really important weekend for FlyQuest to see if they can break into the top five here.
Yeah, I think you're right. Definitely, these are two games that they're kind of must wins for you if you're expecting to prove anything as FlyQuest. I think they're kind of in this weird spot where it's very unlikely that their standing matters at this point. Like they're kind of like very ready to just be the sixth place team. Even if like they lose out from here, I think it's probably unlikely that TSM or Golden Guardians like make up the 3 game difference between them. So they're
Yeah, I
probably
get you.
like settled in top 6, not gonna make top 2. So you're like there in that top like 3 through 6 spot where you'll be in the upper bracket, but you still have to play the first round. Like there's not much you're gonna do about it. So I think to some degree they don't have that much pressure, but you also don't want to just like coast until playoffs. I think like these are as you get closer and closer to the end of the season, you want to be like as good of a team as you can be. So these are important games for them. But yeah, like it definitely against TL and then CLG, like that's 2 tough tests if you're thinking about it. Like these are basically previews of potential first round matchups. So
Yeah, I think another tough test, so to speak, is going to be the game right after Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves. And this is going to show us if Cloud9 is going to start making the move to break into the top two of the standings.
yeah, and I feel like this is a game that I think C9 should win this one. Honestly, like
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's so weird to me that 100 Thieves is still like actually 10-3, like in second place in the league. And I feel like I've said this for the last, like 3 months now that I don't think 100 Thieves is that good, but they keep winning. So who am I to say? But I don't think they're that good. They just still win, like they've obviously got good players. I think they're kind of like coast off of like being a better TL basically at this point where you think I think both of those teams kind of play like you have pretty good players in every lane. Like you're not gonna solo kill someday 8 times. Closer is a good jungler. He's gonna know what to do in the early game. Abidage's a decent mid laner. He's gonna at least scale on whatever he's playing, right? And then FBI and Huhi are a good bot lane. You're not gonna like 0-10 them every game. So like their whole team is pretty decent, and if you can't like pick a spot to tear apart, then they just out team fight you or like out move around the map. They're a better team like as five, right? They've played together for 2 years. So like that's a decent 100 Thieves team, but I think C9 like can match in a lot of areas and can be like a bit of a wild card, like having, Berserker carry fights or have Blabber and, Jensen and Sven find good angles to like pick fights later in the game. So I think the way that they've been playing, especially, being like 8-2, like we said, should be like C9 is in a better form, but I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to that game. And then actually next up, that I guess this Sunday is a really big day of games. We're gonna have Evil Geniuses versus TL, and I'm pretty sure we're both gonna side with EG, like no doubt here. But I don't know why. Like a part of it just seems like a big matchup on paper, but I feel like when you really think about it, the favors are gonna go into EG's odds like very easily.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I keep thinking about you know, playoffs of the spring split. Whenever when EG 3-0 TL, right, and then also, I mean, that was the whole big Danny Pentakill. But then afterwards, it was kind of like Danny being like, "Yeah, we thought TL was supposed to be the better team than 100 Thieves, but we 3-0'd them, and so I mean, we're gonna 3-0 100 Thieves tomorrow too." But like, I don't know. It just feels like EG just doesn't have a match at this point for sure. I don't know. I mean, they've lost a couple games this round robin, but I still think they're good enough to handle their shit against TL here.
Yeah, and I would be very surprised if TL take over this victory, but and I think that if they did win, that would kind of restore my faith in them just a little bit. To like maybe finally have a good final week as well, and then I don't expect them to break in the top two, but um, so hopefully if they can hold on to their third/fourth spot and just kind of show us that they have what it takes to get us a little excited right before playoffs, I think that would be really nice. But other than that, like I don't really have high expectations of them anymore. I've been just disappointed for too long.
Yeah, it's true. I think they you're right. They definitely like something big to happen to prove that they like are more than what they're showing now. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Um, Anything else for next weekend's games of a preview?
Um, I think just as far as like playoff considerations go, I think the important things to look out for, like we said about like I was saying about FlyQuest before, is like they're pretty much locked in that top six. The only people who can realistically challenge is TSM or Golden Guardians. So this week, I don't think they, but both of them have a match against a top team that'll make it pretty hard. But if either of those teams come out of this week 2-0, then that's the only way that they realistically have a shot at like a top six scenario. And one of those other teams has to start falling down. Um, but so keep an eye out for those guys. Also, Immortals, if they're like, they have a little bit of an easier week here playing Golden Guardians and Dig, right? So Immortals could 2-0 easily and like kind of slingshot ahead of those 4 and 9 teams right now. But that's like all bottom of the table kind of stuff. So none of that happens, then it seems like overall pretty. It's that Sunday for the top table matchups, but other than that, it's a kind of boring week. IMO.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Any other topics you want to cover this week?
Nah, I don't know, dude. How's Lost Ark going? Have you quit that game?
No, and a lot of people have quit very very recently. Like in the last 2 weeks, I've seen like 20 people around me quit. It's a good time to quit right now. I have been getting a little lazy with doing my dailies. It's starting to feel kind of like chores, but I'm still having fun with it. Still having fun doing like weekly raids because they're kind of fun. Hanging out with the guild that I'm in, and then also because I'm doing some of this like YouTube stuff for fun, it's like kind of reigniting some sort of spark there. But it is getting a bit tame as of late. But I still like the game and still probably won't go back to League for a bit,
Fair enough. Fair
if
enough.
ever.
If
Definitely not
ever.
TFT.
Whoa,
Fuck
whoa,
that game.
whoa. TFT, okay. We just talked about how you had to go back and get your free skin, dude, so I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
maybe it's gonna have to be an enticing one. If it's like championship Shen, or not championship, victorious Shen, I probably wouldn't care.
What if it's like Victorious Kaisa though, bro?
Ooh, I think a Gwen one would be cool too, or Zeri, since she was played so much this year.
True.
Actually,
Yeah, actually.
yeah, Victorious Kaisa would do it for me. Actually, I would grind
You
it
heard it
out for
right.
her.
I got at least one guy who's back into your ranked players statistics. If
Yeah,
you want.
I'm actually one of those statistics where you played Earth so much that you just quit the game after. But yeah, so next time Earth rolls around, I will be there for sure. All right, and that's going to be it for episode 62 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and the service that you're listening to us on if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it if you also give us a rating or hit the like button to show some support. You can find us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify and so forth. We'll see you all next week for another episode of On the Hunt.
XOXO, baby.